The crimson sun of Ivona the Fourth cast long shadows across the acidic forests as Major Mara Lynn adjusted her environmental suit's filters. The planet's atmosphere was a cocktail of toxic gases that would strip flesh from bone in minutes. Yet here, she stood watching her soldiers carve up a creature that had ruled this world for millennia. Sergeant Holt drove his vibroblade deep into the spine of the massive Ravager beast, its obsidian scales still glistening with the creature's violet blood. The beast had been twice the size of an earth rhinoceros, with 6 legs ending in talons that could rend steel, and a maw filled with teeth like crystalline daggers. Now, it lay motionless, its bioluminescent patterns fading from electric blue to dull gray. "Major, you've got to try this," Holt called out, tossing a chunk of deep red meat onto the portable plasma grill. The flesh sizzled, releasing an aroma that somehow managed to penetrate their suit filters, rich gamey with undertones of something almost floral. Command wasn't kidding when they said these apex predators would make for exotic cuisine. Mara felt her stomach turn, though whether from disgust or unexpected hunger she couldn't say. The Galactic Alliance's Apex Ecological Exploitation Project had been approved just 3 months ago, classifying planets like Ivona 4 as open hunting grounds for humanity's expanding palate. What had once been viewed as conservation efforts had been replaced by a philosophy of cosmic dominance. If humans had the technology to hunt it, they had the right to consume it. "Sergeant, maintain protocol," Mara said, her voice steady, despite the churning in her chest. "Collect tissue samples for analysis first. The feast can wait." Holt's helmet bobbed in acknowledgement, but she could see his grin through the visor. Around them, the rest of Echo Squad moved efficiently through the corpse, extracting samples with scientific precision, while butchering choice cuts with culinary enthusiasm. Dr. Raya Nakamura, their xenobiologist, worked silently at the creature's head, her scanner painting holographic readouts in the air. "Remarkable," Dr. Nakamura murmured more to herself than to anyone else. "The neural complexity is off the charts. This creature had intelligence levels comparable to Earth dolphins, possibly higher." "All the more reason it'll taste sophisticated," Holt quipped, earning nervous chuckles from the other soldiers. Mara's comm unit crackled with an incoming transmission. Colonel Soren Val's voice cut through the static like a laser. "Alpha Echo status report. The High Ecological Council's banquet is in 72 hours. I trust you have enough prime cuts." "Affirmative, Colonel," Mara replied, watching as her team loaded sealed containers with Ravager meat. "We've harvested 3 specimens. The protein yield is substantial." "Excellent. The council members are particularly excited about this delicacy. Career-making opportunities await those who deliver exceptional results, Major. Don't disappoint." The transmission ended, leaving Mara staring at the dismembered apex predator. 3 weeks ago, she had been a simple survey commander tasked with ecological assessment and species cataloging. Now she was a glorified hunter, leading expeditions to capture Earth's galaxy's most formidable predators for the dining tables of politicians and scientists. Lieutenant Novak approached his rifle, still charged from their recent engagement. "Major, the sweeps show at least 6 more Ravagers in the southern quadrant. The pack seems to be protecting something, possibly nesting grounds." Nesting grounds. Dr. Nakamura looked up sharply. "Major, if these creatures are breeding, we need to be extremely careful. The ecological impact of overhunting an apex predator during mating season could be catastrophic." Holt snorted. "Doc, with respect, that's exactly when the meat's supposed to be most tender. Besides, it's not like these things are endangered. The planet's crawling with them." But Mara had been reading Dr. Nakamura's preliminary reports. The Ravagers weren't just apex predators. They were keystone species integral to maintaining Ivona Phi's bizarre ecosystem. Their hunting patterns controlled populations of smaller creatures, their waste fertilized the acid-resistant plant life, and their territorial behaviors maintained crucial migration routes for dozens of other species. Over the following days, Echo Squad pursued the Ravagers deeper into Ivona the Four's hostile terrain. They navigated through canyons where acid rain had carved impossible geometries in the stone-crossed ice deserts, where the ground itself crackled with residual radiation, and descended into cavern systems that seemed to predate the planet's current geological era. Each hunt became easier as the team learned the Ravagers' patterns. The creatures were intelligent, but they followed predictable behaviors when protecting their young. Mara found herself simultaneously impressed by their courage and disturbed by how easily humans had learned to exploit it. Her personal log entries grew increasingly conflicted. Day 7. Harvested 2 mature females, excellent marbling in the dorsal muscles. Holt says the younger specimens have a sweeter taste profile. I should feel proud of our efficiency, but watching these magnificent creatures fall leaves me uneasy. Day 10. Dr. Nakamura's scans reveal the Ravagers have complex social structures, possibly cultural rituals around their nesting sites. We've disrupted a mating display that might have been ongoing for generations. The meat will be exquisite, the loss of knowledge irreparable. Day 12. Found the nesting grounds. 47 eggs each, the size of a human torso, glowing with internal heat. Orders are to harvest the adults and leave the eggs. I wonder what kind of galaxy we're creating where power is measured by what we can destroy and digest. The southern quadrant's nesting grounds were a marvel of natural engineering. The Ravagers had chosen a geothermal vent system, where the planet's core heat incubated their offspring, while mineral-rich springs provided nutrients for embryonic development. Ancient rock formations suggested this site had been used for millions of years. Mara ordered Echo Squad to establish a perimeter, while she and Dr. Nakamura examined the site. The Ravagers defending the nest were larger than any they'd encountered. Their scales darker, their bioluminescent patterns more complex. These weren't just apex predators, they were elders, possibly centuries old. Major, Dr. Nakamura said quietly, her scanner revealing something unprecedented. These creatures aren't just intelligent, they're manipulating their environment. See these chemical traces. The Ravagers are actively managing the bacterial colonies in the mineral springs. They're not just nesting here, they're cultivating the ecosystem. Before Mara could respond, her comm unit exploded with Colonel Vale's voice. Echo Squad, you're taking too long. The High Council has doubled their order. They want enough Ravager meat for a formal banquet, honoring the new Galactic Trade Expansion Act. You have 24 hours. Sir, the ecological implications are not your concern, Major. Results are: harvest everything in that quadrant. Use the biological ion cannons if necessary. This is about more than dinner. It's about demonstrating humanity's dominion over nature itself. The biological ion cannons were humanity's latest innovation in extinction technology. They could sterilize square kilometers of landscape while leaving the terrain itself intact, perfect for harvesting in dangerous environments. Using them here would obliterate not just the Ravagers, but the entire nested ecosystem they'd spent eons creating. Mara looked at the ancient nesting site, at Dr. Nakamura's horrified expression, at the Ravager elders standing guard over their next generation. In that moment, she understood that she wasn't witnessing a hunt, she was participating in a genocide disguised as gastronomy. That night, while her squad slept, Mara made a choice that would redefine her career and humanity's relationship with apex predation. She gathered Dr. Nakamura, and surprisingly, Sergeant Holt, whose enthusiasm for the hunt had been replaced by something approaching reverence after observing the Ravagers' complex behaviors up close. "We're not hunters," she told them quietly. "We're vandals in a museum smashing priceless artifacts because we can." Holt nodded slowly. "I've been thinking the same thing, Major. These creatures, they're not just animals. They're closer to people than we want to admit." Dr. Nakamura had been running calculations all day. If we remove the breeding population, the ecosystem collapse will be almost immediate. The bacterial colonies will overgrow without Ravager regulation. The acid forests will overwhelm the tundra regions, and the atmospheric processing that these creatures facilitate through their migration patterns will cease. Ivona 4 will become a dead world within a decade. Then we protect them, Mara decided. All of them. The plan was simple in concept, complex in execution. Instead of continuing the hunt, Echo Squad would establish a defensive perimeter around the nesting grounds and send a priority alert to the Galactic Alliance Ecological Assessment Division, a civilian organization that still held some political sway over military operations. But Colonel Vall had anticipated resistance. Within hours of Mara's failure to report, in a full battalion of Galactic Marines landed on Ivona 4, armed with the latest in bioharvesting technology. Their orders were simple: extract the Ravager specimens by any means necessary, and if Echo Squad had gone native, they were to be extracted as well. The confrontation came at dawn as Ivona 4's crimson sun painted the nesting grounds in shades of blood and gold. Major Mara Lin stood between the advancing Marines and the Ravager elders, her squad arrayed behind her. The creatures seemed to understand what was happening. Their bioluminescent patterns pulsed in complex rhythms, possibly communicating across the nest site. Captain Torres, leading the Marine force, emerged from his assault vehicle. "Major Lin, you're in violation of direct orders. Stand down immediately or face court-martial for insubordination and obstruction of military operations." "Captain, these creatures are critical to planetary ecosystem maintenance. Their elimination would constitute an environmental catastrophe with galaxy-wide implications." "That determination is above both our pay grades, Major. The High Council wants their banquet and we're going to provide it." Behind Torres, the biological ion cannons powered up with an ominous hum. The Ravagers sensed the threat immediately. Their patterns shifted to deep red, a color Mara had never seen before. Several of the smaller ones moved to shield the eggs, while the elders positioned themselves in a defensive formation that spoke of countless generations of learned behavior. Dr. Nakamura's scanner went wild. "Major, the bioluminescence, it's not just communication. The Ravagers are releasing defensive compounds into the atmosphere. If those chemicals interact with the ion cannon discharge..." Mara felt time compress around her. The equation was simple: allow the massacre and watch an entire ecosystem die for the sake of political theater, or act in a way that would end her career, but might save a species. She activated her squad's emergency explosives, targeting the Marines' equipment caches. The detonation rocked the nesting grounds, disabling the ion cannons and sending both human forces scrambling for cover. In the chaos, the Ravagers retreated deeper into the cavern system, protecting their young and disappearing into depths the humans couldn't follow. The explosion also triggered something unexpected. The Ravagers' defensive compounds, combined with the disrupted ion cannon energy and the planet's unique atmospheric conditions, created a phenomenon Dr. Nakamura would later call ecological nullification. A field of energy spread across the nesting site, rendering all technology inert within its boundaries. The Marines couldn't pursue, and the Ravagers couldn't be harvested from their sanctuary. 3 days later, Mara stood before an emergency session of the Galactic Alliance High Council, her uniform stripped of rank insignia, facing charges of insubordination, destruction of military property, and interference with sanctioned operations. Beside her, Dr. Nakamura presented the ecological data that supported their actions. The Ravagers of Ivona 4 represent a crucial link in an ecosystem that processes atmospheric toxins across 3 star systems. Dr. Nakamura explained to the assembled council members. Their elimination would trigger a cascade failure that could render multiple planets uninhabitable within decades. Councillor Elena Vasquez, known for her hardline stance on human expansion, leaned forward. "Doctor, while your concerns are noted, humanity's right to utilize resources across the galaxy supersedes the preservation of individual species. We are the apex predators now." But Councillor James Morrison, representing the Conservation Coalition, had been reviewing the data. Counselor Vasquez, the economic impact of losing 3 habitable systems would far exceed any culinary or symbolic gains from harvesting these creatures. Perhaps it's time we reconsider what it means to be apex predators. The debate raged for hours. The High Council was split between those who saw the Ravager hunt as a symbol of human dominance and those who recognized the long-term consequences of uncontrolled apex predation. In the end, it was public pressure that tipped the scales. Video footage of the majestic Ravagers defending their young had leaked to civilian networks, sparking galaxy-wide protests against the Apex exploitation project. The final resolution was a compromise that satisfied no one completely. The Ravager hunting was suspended indefinitely, but not officially banned. Ivona 4 was classified as a protected ecological study zone, with extremely limited access for research purposes only. Most importantly, the galaxy's approach to apex predator management would be completely overhauled. Mara was court-martialed, but given a suspended sentence in recognition of the ecological importance of her actions. She was transferred to the newly created Interspecies Conservation Corps, with the rank of colonel and a mandate to prevent similar ecological disasters across the galaxy. 6 months later, Mara returned to Ivona 4 as part of a research delegation. The planet had begun to recover from the human intrusion. The Ravagers had expanded their range, their population stabilizing as the ecosystem found its balance once again. Dr. Nakamura's continued studies revealed that the creatures had developed new defensive behaviors, suggesting they remembered the human threat and had adapted accordingly. Standing at the edge of the ancient nesting grounds now protected by both the Ravagers' nullification field and Galactic Alliance law, Mara reflected on how close they had come to irreversible catastrophe. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless species that humans had yet to encounter. Each represented potential knowledge, potential beauty, potential wisdom, or potential dinner, depending on how humanity chose to exercise its power. Sergeant Holt, now part of her Conservation Corps team, approached with a ration pack. "Major, sorry Colonel, ready for lunch." Mara smiled, accepting the synthetic protein bar. "Sergeant, I think I'm done with exotic cuisine for a lifetime." They watched as a young Ravager emerged from the caverns, its bioluminescent patterns bright with curiosity rather than threat. The creature studied them from a safe distance, its intelligence clearly evident in its careful observations. "Think they'll ever trust us again?" Holt asked. "Maybe," Mara said. "But trust needs to be earned. And that starts with recognizing that being able to destroy something doesn't give us the right to consume it." The Ravager tilted its massive head, as if it understood their conversation, then retreated back into the protective darkness of its ancestral home. Its bioluminescent patterns formed one final display before it disappeared, a complex sequence that Dr. Nakamura would later translate as a warning of farewell, and perhaps, just perhaps, a faint hope for a different kind of future between species. As the crimson sun of Ivona 4 set behind the acidic forest canopy, Mara made a personal vow. The galaxy was full of apex predators, some with claws and fangs, others with technology and ambition. But true dominance wasn't about what you could kill and consume. It was about what you chose to preserve, what you chose to protect, and what kind of legacy you left for the countless life forms yet to evolve among the stars. The age of casual apex predation was ending, not because humans lacked the power to continue, but because some humans had finally learned to question whether they should. The Ravagers of Ivona 4 had taught them a crucial lesson. There are some hunts that, once completed, leave the hunter forever diminished. In the end, the most profound act of apex behavior was knowing when not to hunt at all. The galaxy still teemed with predators and prey hunters, and the hunted. But now, thanks to a handful of humans who chose conscience over cuisine, there existed the possibility that apex predators, human and non-human alike, could coexist without mutual destruction. The feast would go on, but the menu had forever changed. And somewhere in the depths of Ivona the Ford, the ancient Ravagers continued their eternal dance of life, death, and regeneration secure in the knowledge that not all apex predators were interested in devouring their world. The greatest predator, they had learned, was sometimes the one who chose not to hunt. As Mara and her team departed Ivona the Ford, the planet's twin moons rose over the horizon, casting silver light across the preserved nesting grounds. In that light, bioluminescent patterns flickered among the rocks, messages of caution, celebration, and perhaps gratitude from a species that had survived by the slimmest of margins. The universe was vast and full of wonders that hungry civilizations had yet to discover. But now, at least, there existed the framework and the will to ensure that wonder and appetite could coexist without one inevitably consuming the other. The story of the Ravagers would be taught in military academies and civilian schools across the galaxy, a reminder that the greatest victories sometimes came from knowing when not to fight, and that the most satisfying feasts were those that left the table set for future generations. In the end, Major Mara Lynn had saved more than just an alien species. She had helped preserve the very concept that apex predators could evolve beyond predation itself, that power exercised with wisdom and restraint created more lasting satisfaction than power exercised without limit. The galaxy still harbored countless apex predators, human and alien alike. But now, at least some of them understood that true dominance meant ensuring there would always be something magnificent left to dominate, protect, and coexist with among the endless stars.